Quite simply, the mayor has asked him to create a new department and design and implement a new system to speed up the issuance of permits for new construction and rehab of new buildings. The mayor said, quote, "The process today is too bureaucratic and time-consuming for big, complex projects that require reviews from too many departments. Developers lose thousands of dollars for every day of delay. And when that happens, the entire Chicago economy loses jobs and it slows economic development." End of quote. Our guest today is a U.S. Air Force veteran who served and received commendations for his service in the Persian Gulf War. He is a product of the Chicago school system. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to the City Club of Chicago the Commissioner of the City Department of Construction and Permits, John Roberson. Commissioner? All yours.
Jay, thank you for that warm introduction. I would like to take this opportunity also to thank the City Club for allowing me the opportunity to speak before all these great folks. We're going to have open plan review immediately after this, so everyone who is interested in getting an expedited permit can see me afterward. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be able to serve in this capacity. I'm fortunate that the mayor has allowed me the honor and privilege to be able to serve the citizens of this great city. And everyone knows how demanding Mayor Daley is, his impatience for change, his impatience to really make this city as great as it can be. When I started this job and was appointed building commissioner in 2001, March of last year, I actually had a full head of hair. It was really out to here. But since then, the mayor has taken all that away, and I am now faced with the challenge of a receding hairline. But I will be okay. This is indeed an exciting time in our city. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we have seen a tremendous building boom here in the city of Chicago. We have not only seen commercial development, we've seen residential development. It has not only occurred in the downtown area, but it has also occurred in our neighborhoods. But one of the things that we have found is that we have a permit process that simply doesn't work. Daniel Burnham once said, "Make no small plans, for it has no magic to stir men's blood." As I sat down and I thought about that quote, and as I thought about what I was going to talk about today, I realized that Daniel Burnham probably had to deal with a very perplexing challenge. As he laid out the great plan for the city, he probably thought about, how am I going to get a permit to do all of this? And then the second question was, should I hire an expediter to try to get this thing moving along? But what he meant is that we have to challenge ourselves. We have to be willing to take a look at the things that we are doing today, and we simply have to ask the simple question, is there a better way to do it? I had a chance recently to talk with my friend Bob Grela, and one of the things that Bob said, he said, "Commissioner, you got a tough challenge. Every single commissioner that has served before you has tried to make the ball a little bit rounder, tried to smooth out the edges." And my challenge back to David was, or to Bob, was very simple. I think that we should be questioning the basic assumption that it should be a ball. I think we have to question the basic assumption, should it be round? We simply have to throw things out and we have to be willing to start all over again. And that's what this mayor has done. For the last 13 years, the permit process has been a process that has frustrated not only him, but it has frustrated developers and contractors. The mayor realized that in order for our economy to continue to grow, that if we are going to get beyond competing against Naperville and Schaumburg, that really our competition are cities like Las Vegas and New York and Los Angeles. That if we're going to be a great city, then we have to have an environment that facilitates pro-development and pro-business. The mayor was willing to take the chance, and in his 2003 budget, lay out a new process, a new paradigm for getting permits out faster. The creation of the Department of Construction and Permits is really the manifestation of the mayor's vision for how he wants to continue to move this city forward, how we're going to continue to grow our economy. Construction and permits is going to focus on one thing and one thing only: customers. We're going to focus on getting permits out faster. We're not going to be encumbered by the old way of thinking. We're not going to be encumbered by things in our business that simply should be separated. And that's why the mayor made the decision to separate the inspections function from the permit function. Now, this new Department of Construction and Permits really is going to focus on and is going to be able to be successful because of four major things. The first is that we decided that we needed to bring in an entirely new management team. Now, there's no offense to anyone that works there today, and they have actually done a pretty good job. But the improvements that have been made, the changes that have been made thus far simply have not gone far enough, and they have not reached down deep enough to rid the bureaucracy from the Department of Buildings. So what we had to do was to create a new department. We simply weren't going to take the same people, put them in a new department, put a new name on them, and then expect to get a different result. We're going to bring in a management team that understands construction. We're going to bring in a management team that understands design. We're going to bring in a management team that understands that it's about what the customer wants, not just what we want. It's not about what the bureaucrats say is the right thing to do. It's about facilitating development, facilitating safe development. So this new management team that I'm going to lead includes many good people, people who have worked in government and people who have also worked in the private sector. One of the people that will be joining me in this, I call it a crusade because it's been 13 years trying to get this thing done, is Denise Castellino. Many of you know Denise Castellino as the project manager for Wacker Drive, one of the most ambitious public work projects that the city has ever undertaken. She is going to serve as my first deputy, and she's going to be working side by side with me to try to create a process in a department that is focused on the things that the mayor has given us charge for. So this new management team of bringing in the best and the brightest from the private sector, identifying new talent in the public sector, and bringing them together for the purpose of making sure that we create buildings and have a building environment that is safe, but it is also focused on the things that are important to you, and that is getting the permit out faster so that you can begin to build. The second thing that we're going to focus on, and one of the things that we realize, is that even though there has been a huge increase in the amount of building and construction that has occurred in the city of Chicago over this last 4 or 5 years, the city of Chicago has not done the one thing that it needed to do, and that is for us to change and adapt to the marketplace. While construction was increasing, our staffing levels remained the same. Our capacity remained the same. We have the same number of people today that we had almost 10 years ago. We have the same number of structural engineers that Las Vegas has, and they don't do as much work as we do. We issue over 27,000 permits in 2001 and in 2002. Project valuation of over $3 billion that's been constructed in the city of Chicago. But we recognized that one of the things that we needed to do was to expand our capacity. We realized that we simply didn't need to bring in more bureaucrats to sit at the desk to come up with ways to keep building from happening, but we needed to find a new creative way to do it. So what the mayor decided to do, and what we are in the process of putting in place, is the outsourcing of 50% of all of the work that we currently do today. Many of you know that many of our complex projects currently are being reviewed by internal architectural examiners and structural engineers and fire prevention engineers and plumbers and electricians. In order for us to continue to deal with the increase in volume of work, and in order to bring in a new level of expertise, we have decided to outsource 50% of our work, focusing primarily on the outsourcing for complex projects and many of our mid-sized projects. Now, what does that mean for you as a customer? It means that we have heard the criticisms that you have leveled against us for the last 13 years, that we're not customer friendly, that we could really resolve a lot of the issues if we would simply take the time to take 5 minutes to sit down and find out what the issues are. So now we're going to do that. We are going to, through this new program that we're calling Developer Services, we are actually going to create a structure where you as the customer will get a chance to meet with the actual reviewers, private reviewers, where you will get a chance to sit down face to face to talk about the scope of your project and to actually put together the schedule for when you want your permit. If you come in on a Monday and you say, I need my permit in 90 days, those private reviewers are going to work with you to come up with a schedule for submission, reviews, meetings, so that you can get that permit in 90 days. No more back and forth. No more sitting around wondering what the examiners actually mean when they say that the fire separation isn't correct. We're going to give you clear, accurate, predictable, consistent information. The other thing that we're going to do with this new process as we talk about the outsourcing is that it is going to take the city pretty much out of the process. What we're going to do is we're going to coordinate the regulatory reviews, but you're going to have the opportunity to have those face-to-face meetings, not in City Hall, but with the private reviewers themselves at their offices. So if you decide that you want to meet every single day at 2 o'clock, you're going to have the opportunity to do that. Now, I have heard all of the complaints that, Commissioner, we would pay 2.5 times the permit fee if we could just get it faster. Well, you know what? I'm going to call your bluff. You're going to get your opportunity to pay more. But the promise that we're going to give you in return is that you're going to get the permit when you want it and when you need it. As customers, you're now going to have to pay for the cost of the review in addition to the permit fees. Now, I've been involved in construction and development for a while, and I realized, and as I had a chance to talk with Mr. Friedman, we were talking about Medina Temple and all the other things, and as I had a chance to talk with many other developers, I think that it's a small cost to pay for the cost of the review if it saves you 3 to 6 months in construction loan interest. If it saves you money in carrying costs on real estate taxes. If it saves you money on having to keep contractors and employees at bay for 30 to 60 days while it goes through the process and hopefully will get you a permit at some point. Paying the cost of the review and paying the cost of the permit is a small cost to pay to get your permit when you want it. The third component of this new department is that we recognize that there are at least 9 to 12 different departments that are involved in the review process. We have everyone from zoning to the Department of Planning to transportation to buildings to waters to sewer. And we realized that as customers, we made you go to each of those different departments and go through the musical chairs and jump through a whole bunch of hoops in which to get a permit. Well, now we're going to eliminate all that. No more musical chairs. We're now going to allow you to schedule appointments to come in so that we can dedicate time and attention to sitting down with you, going through the requirements, telling you everything that you need to know up front. No more surprises. To tell you exactly what you need in order to get that permit. We're going to take all of the various review processes from the various departments and we're going to consolidate them into this Department of Construction and Permits. We're going to have project managers who are going to be responsible for overseeing your project specifically. So if you come in and you see a project manager, you now have a point of contact that you will be able to come to, that you will be able to call to find out what the status of your project is. If you want to find out what's going on with the zoning review, you'll be able to go to that project manager and they will give you the latest, greatest information about where your project stands. Now, there is no additional cost for that, other than the cost that you have to pay for the permit. But one of the things that we realize is that we need better customer service. We need to give the customers what they're asking for. People have complained for a long time. I just want to sit down with someone. Tell me exactly what it is I have to do, and then don't change the rules on me in the middle of the game. Well, this new standard plan review that we're going to have, where you're going to have these project managers do the reviews for you, is actually going to help that. There will be no more build out on the 18th floor, no change in the driveway, and then we send you to the driveway permit folks for them to tell you that you don't need a driveway permit. We're actually going to have individuals who are going to be empowered to sign off and approve those things right there and then. No more jumping around. We're going to eliminate the musical chairs with zoning. I was talking with, and some of the staff raised the issue that, if someone actually has to go to the restroom or have to do anything, if they get out of that chair, they actually lose their place in line? Stupid is what it is. We're sending people through all of these different things, and for what? We're not getting things out any faster, we're not having good customers, and ultimately we're not getting the revenue that we need in order to run city government. So now we got to change it. So we're going to eliminate the musical chairs. The fourth thing that we're going to do is we're going to incorporate technology in every single thing that we're doing. I talked about developer services and how our larger, more complex projects are now going to go through this new review process. Well, now one of the things that we're also going to be incorporating is coming up with a mechanism that will allow people to submit plans online. No more paper, where we actually will be able to do project management on the system. There will be a website where, as the customer, you will be able to go to, you will see the corrections, you will see the comments, and we will be able to exchange information via the internet. So now you're not going to have to spend a whole lot of time standing in line trying to see someone who is going to tell you the same thing that they told you last week, but you're now going to get real-time information that's going to tell you exactly what it is that you need to do, but it's going to be on a website. The other thing that we're going to do for those of you who are contractors, we're going to take our short form permits and we're actually going to put those permits online. So if you're a roofing contractor, if you're a garage contractor, if you're an electrical contractor, and you've got 50 jobs that you're going to do this week, we're now going to have the opportunity for you to go online, apply for the permit, pay for the permit online, and then have the permit print at your office. You're not going to have to come in anymore. So these are some of the technology things that we're going to incorporate in many of the things that we're doing. It is going to be something that is not going to happen overnight. And ladies and gentlemen, let me be very frank. In order for this to work, this is not about a city solution. Every great thing that has happened in this city has happened because the business community and the public sector have gotten together and partnered and made it happen. It's important for us to get permits out so that you can build. It should be important to you because each and every single project, each and every single developer, each and every single owner, each and every single retailer that decides not to build in the city of Chicago, not only does the city suffer, but you suffer as well. Your businesses suffer. There's architectural work that then doesn't come to your firm. There's engineering work that doesn't happen. We don't better our quality of life. We don't get in revenues that help us to facilitate things like Millennium Park, to help facilitate things like new police stations, new fire stations, to help facilitate things like making our education system much better. So I'm not here to tell you that this is all about bricks and mortar, because we've done that before. We've raised the city out of the muck when we had buildings that were at street level and we had sewage running in the streets. We're able to raise the buildings. We're able to reverse the Chicago River. We're able to do great, marvelous things as it relates to engineering and construction. Well, now we've got to take it one step further, and now we have to do a great and marvelous thing with this permit process. But we're not going to be able to do it by ourselves. I need your help. And that means that there has to be a level of responsibility and a level of accountability on all of us. It means that as architects and engineers, I need you to come in with good drawings. It means that I need you to come in, and when you're ready to sit down and go through permits and you're ready to go through those plans, be ready to sit down with us. We're going to be willing to do whatever it takes to help get the permit out faster, but you've got to be willing to do what it takes as well. It means that as owners, we're going to give you accurate and consistent information about what's going on with your project. We're still going to have our information online, but in my mind, I want to sit down and I want to talk with the owner. I want you to communicate to me how important this project is to you. I want the design professional to sit across the table from us, to tell us exactly what you need in order to get the permit, to work out the minor issues, so that ultimately all of us can be in a city that we can be proud of. This is not going to be easy. And you know, my grandfather once told me, he used this scripture, this biblical scripture, where it talks about, you know, you can't plow a field if you're still looking backwards. Because what will happen is as things get plowed, it kind of goes left and it kind of goes right. You got to stay focused on the agenda. You got to stay focused on the things that you're doing. The mayor has given us the mandate to stay focused. The mayor has given us the mandate to keep it simple, use a common sense approach, and most of all, listen to the customer. So I'm here to tell you this morning that we're going to rid ourselves of the bureaucracy. We're going to rid ourselves of the bureaucrats. We're going to rid ourselves of anything that is going to be an impediment to getting things done in this city. My hope is that by working together, that we're going to make Chicago the greatest city in the world, and that we're going to continue to make Chicago the place where people live, where they work, and more importantly, where people are going to build. Thank you very much, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
If you want to ask a question, there's a microphone right there. Doc, first one up. Just state who you are and except for John.
I'm Henry Betts from the Rehabilitation Institute. And I think what you describe is fantastic. I think if you could change the culture of an agency like yours, it would be a fantastic prototype. Beyond helping what you do, I think it would be a great prototype for people in this sort of situation. Frequently, I don't know about other people, frequently, at worst I feel sometimes at people's desks downtown like a criminal, at best like an interloper, And I often wonder whether that really is the way to treat a customer. I mean, I paid to get there. I paid taxes to get there. I'm the customer, and yet I feel very intimidated. But I had one thing I wanted to mention, and the citizens that I deal with are people with physical disability. And as you may know, 70% of disabled people who could work are not working, which puts very high in my priority list the ability for people with disability to be able to work. And also, as you may know, one reason they can't work is because of their accessibility to the workplace and to housing. So and the mayor is just passionate about this issue, as you may know. He's very, very interested, very passionate, and very proactive in it. And I just wondered what your experience is relative to the ADA. Putting it simply, is there anything you'd like to say about the American with Disabilities Act and in relation to what you have to get done?
Well, one of the things that we are in the process of doing, and that we're working with Commissioner Hanson, who is head of the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities, is that we are actually in a process of rewriting our accessibility code. What we want to do is we want to certainly make Chicago accessible for everyone. I know that one of the priorities of the mayor has been visitability in many of the public as well as some of the private buildings, and we're going to be continuing to work with Commissioner Hanson on that. I think that it's very important that whatever construction standards that we set, that we take into account the economic impact as well. So I think that there's always that balancing act of how do we make sure that we incorporate all the things that are important to all citizens of the city of Chicago, while at the same time balancing the economic impacts. One of the things that was raised when I was Commissioner of Buildings was the issue related to the facade, the exterior program, and balancing the interests of life safety versus the costs to condo owners and building owners. And I think that one of the things that all of us have found is that this is a mayor who's willing to listen. This is a mayor who listens to all sectors of the city and wants to find ways to meet every single need, but we also have to balance all of the other interests that we have as well. So for me, the accessibility and the ADA requirements are extremely important, and we're going to continue to move those forward, and we're going to continue to be a city that's very progressive about how we address specific needs of specific populations within our city. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Commissioner, I just wanted to say your speech was wonderful. I hope all of that works. I have an ongoing problem since 2001. My name's Jacqueline Smith. I'm with Space Saver Parking, which is a division of Mid-American Elevator. We have parking machines that are in several locations. They take one spot, make it two, or make it automatic. And we've been getting our permits with no problem up until November of 2001. We had a stop order put from the zoning. And since that time, we've spent a lot of money trying to get that stop order lifted. We've made our new ordinances. We've asked what else we need. We put in new building codes for it. At the time, we have had no problems up until that point. They're all over the United States. We have the first fully automated parking garage in Washington, D.C., but Chicago will not let a single parking machine come in. I'm very nervous, excuse me.
So am I. Don't worry about it.
So my question is that what can we do? The next step is to go right directly to Mayor Daley, because we've gone to...
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
We've been at every council meeting, the aldermen want it. It'll take cars off the street, but we just seem to be in a limbo.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you raised that issue. I was just talking with Al Friedman and Tom Coffey about that very subject, about parking garages. We have had an opportunity within the last 2 to 3 months to actually take a look at robotic parking and things like that. So it is something that we are taking a look at. And, you know, as you know, our building code sometimes is not very conducive to innovation. And I think that that's one of the major changes that we're taking a look at. And as we have begun rewriting the building code, that's one of the things that we're trying to take into consideration. Chicago has always been a place of innovation, whether you're talking about architecture, whether you're talking about engineering, and sometimes we get into this mode where everything becomes cookie cutter because it's real easy to say no. It's much harder to actually sit down and put the thought into figuring out how to make something work. So we are taking a look at, I'm very familiar with the Washington Park, the Washington DC parking garage. Actually, our head of code review had a chance to visit there, or is going to be visiting there within the next couple of weeks. So we are taking a look at that. That is something that, as we were talking about, is something that has to be an option that's put on the table. And simply because it's never been done before, doesn't mean that we shouldn't be taking a look at it. Well, you know, no one ever built the Sears Tower before, but we've got it. And I think that what we simply have to do is be willing to be open. We have to be willing to be innovative. And more importantly, we have a mayor who's willing to be open and innovative and take a look at a lot of different things. So that is something that we're going to be addressing this year.
Commissioner Alan Lev, what is the timetable for the implementation of your new system, and what effect will it have on permits in the meantime until it's fully in place?
Well, it's anticipated that we are going to open the doors of this new department in mid-April. Until that time, the current process for getting permits will continue to be in place, but there's not going to be this, on April 15th, we're going to flip the switch and all of a sudden everything is going to be brand spanking new. There is going to be a transition period. Actually, we have been in transition for the last 60 to 90 days, so we are currently going through that process. And for those of you who currently have permits in place or have applications in place, we're going to continue to work with you. And as we go through the transition, we're going to try to make sure that it's smooth and that it's orderly. There are, for some projects, it's going to be a little bit different, and we're going to have to do a lot more hand-holding. But no one is going to fall through the cracks. We're going to make sure that every single application that's currently in process continues to get processed and try to get out as soon as possible. But it will be mid-April when we start the new department. And it will actually be on a brand-new floor. Many of you know that we are currently on the 8th floor. We're currently building out new space on the 9th floor of City Hall, and that's where the new department will be housed.
Commissioner, my name is Manu Shah. We are architects, engineers. Your plan is truly commendable and very innovative. And one of my suggestions is that many of the buildings that come for permit are very small, and the permit can be given on the spot, like adding a garage or adding a room. And if you can do that, then it won't clog the system. You take out a lot of simple things on the spot, and people go home. But a lot of time, for a simple structure, one-story building, we get a comments that do the wind analysis. Now, wind analysis is reserved for complex and taller structure. So a lot of this demand that is coming in the comments are irrelevant, not necessary, and a lot of things we do by judgment. You know, we feel that, you know, this structure is right, and it should be not analyzed to the nth degree. So a lot of these things, if they can be taken out, it will save a lot of time and money.
You're absolutely right, and I thank you for those comments. One of the things that we're going to be changing about the new process is that there are things that are very simple, things that don't require a lot of submission back and forth and really require us to re-review plans. So there are going to be things that we are going to call conditional permits, or permits that are issued subject to certain conditions being met in the field. So I'm going to be working very closely with Commissioner Reyes, who is now the new Commissioner of the Department of Buildings that's in charge of inspections. So we're going to be working very closely together because we realize that there are some permits that can be issued and verified in the field, certain aspects of them, and we're certainly going to do that. When you talk about some of the smaller permits and projects, that's why our self-certification program is actually going to be expanded. I'm of the belief that we have not had a major building failure in the city of Chicago, not because our review has been so great, but because we have design professionals here in the city of Chicago that are top-notch. The same way that we spend time reviewing plans, well, designers had to create them as well. So we recognize that we have a huge community out there of design professionals that are very experienced, and we simply have to rely upon that. You know, when someone puts their stamp on that plan, that should mean something. There shouldn't be a safety net where someone brings in a plan that's 60% complete because they think that over the next 6 months that it's going to take them to get their permit, that the city of Chicago is going to tell them what they need to do in order to make certain corrections. We're going to eliminate that. If you put your stamp on the plan, we're holding you accountable for it. And when we talk about the self-certification process, where we're going to expand to interior build-outs, both new and old, we're going to expand our self-certification so that we can have more smaller residential development. to be included in that scope. So you're going to see that there are a lot of things that previously we took a lot of time reviewing that now are either going to be self-certified or are going to be allowed to be issued with with conditions attached to that permit that can be verified in the field.
Any more questions for the commissioner? Well, on behalf of the City Club, let's give a big round of applause.
Thank
A one-year membership to the City Club of Chicago, which of course after 1 year we expect you to pay. A cup that requires no permit. And for those of you who want to see this again and aren't doing much, on February 22nd, Saturday night at 7 p.m., Can TV, young man right back there, he's with us all the time. This will be shown on Channel 21 in Chicago. Meeting adjourned.
Oh, one other thing.
Meeting not
I'm sorry.
adjourned.
Meeting not adjourned. I really, because no person can do this by themselves. I really want to recognize my staff. Please stand up. And the other members of our staff have Alex Holt from the Office of Budget and Management. These are the people that really do all the work. I realize that I'm not really in charge. They're the ones that are really in charge, but they provide great support and they really work very hard. So I want to thank them publicly.
And watch this, because this is the City Club. Speaking out for those of us who teach public administration, you're bureaucrats. Meeting adjourned.